Stop being kind to everyone. That may sound shocking, especially in a world where we are constantly told to be kind no matter what. But let me explain something to you that we often overlook. Kindness is not weakness, but misplaced kindness can be dangerous, very dangerous. You see, we are taught to be generous, forgiving, and soft-hearted. That is beautiful. It's a noble trait, but we must also be wise. We must be intelligent in how and where we place that kindness. Some people don't appreciate it. In fact, some people will misuse it. And not only that, they will harm you with the very kindness you offered them. It becomes a weapon in their hands, and you become the one bleeding. There are times when people say, "He's too nice," or "She's too kind." They say it in a way that sounds like a compliment, but if you think deeper, you'll realize they're actually pointing out a weakness. Not because kindness itself is weak, but because when it's given to the wrong people, without boundaries, without discernment, it becomes something people exploit. Some individuals don't look at your kindness and think, "Subhanallah, what a beautiful soul." They think, "Here's someone I can take advantage of." So they start asking for favors, manipulating your emotions, playing with your guilt, using your trust to get what they want. And because you think being kind means always saying yes, you go along with it. You stretch yourself. You give and you give and you give until there's nothing left of you. And the saddest part, when you finally draw the line, when you say, "That's enough," they turn around and call you selfish. They say, "But you're supposed to be a good person. Look at the trick." They use your goodness against you. That's not kindness anymore. That's emotional blackmail. That's a trap. So let's get one thing clear. Kindness without wisdom is not a virtue. It's like giving a loaded weapon to someone who doesn't know how to use it. You think you're helping, but you're actually enabling harm. Even the Prophet, peace be upon him, was known for his mercy and gentleness, but he also drew firm boundaries. He forgave, but he also confronted. He was loving, but he was never naive. That's the example we follow. When you keep being kind to someone who repeatedly lies to you, cheats you, disrespects you, or drains your energy, you're not doing a noble act, you're allowing injustice to continue. And in some cases, you're enabling sin. Yes, kindness becomes a sin when it fuels wrongdoing. Don't allow your softness to support someone else's hard-heartedness. You need to ask yourself, am I being kind because it's the right thing to do, or because I'm afraid to say no? Am I helping because I truly want to help, or because I'm scared of conflict? If your kindness is rooted in fear, guilt, or the need for approval, then it's not kindness anymore. It's a form of self-abandonment. That's not what Islam teaches. There's a beautiful duo, Allah, make me among those who are strong in truth and soft in character. Look at that balance, strength in truth, gentleness in character. You don't need to shout, argue, or be harsh. But you do need to know where to place your compassion. You do need to protect your peace. You do need to guard your heart. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop being kind to them, because your kindness is allowing them to continue in bad behavior. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop being kind to someone who repeatedly hurts you. We're not here to please everyone. We're not here to be liked by everyone. We're here to stand for what's right. And sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes that means staying silent. Sometimes that means refusing to help. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stop enabling harm. So remember, stop being kind to everyone. Be kind to the right people, at the right time, in the right way. Let your kindness be guided by wisdom. Let it be for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of approval. And let it always come with strength, not fear. Not everyone deserves your kindness. That's the truth many people don't want to hear. We grow up being told to be nice, to smile, to forgive, to keep the peace. And yes, Islam teaches us to have good character, to treat people well, to avoid arrogance and harshness. But Islam also teaches us to be wise, to be cautious. Not everyone who crosses your path is sincere. Not everyone who speaks sweet words has a pure heart. And not everyone deserves access to your kindness. There are people out there who don't want your goodness, they want to drain you. They don't want to grow with you. They want to use you. They don't want to uplift you. They want to take what they can and leave you empty. And the problem is when we are too kind to the wrong people, we end up blaming ourselves when it all falls apart. We say, maybe I wasn't patient enough. Maybe I should have given them one more chance. Maybe I should have stayed quiet. But the real issue is, They never deserved your kindness to begin with. You need to understand something. Kindness is a gift, a beautiful, priceless gift. You're not being rude or arrogant when you choose carefully who receives it. You're being wise. Imagine someone walking into your home and mistreating your family. Would you keep opening the door every time they come back just because you're a kind person? Of course not. That wouldn't be kindness, that would be foolishness. It's the same with your heart. It's the same with your time, your energy, your compassion. Protect it. Don't offer it freely to people who repeatedly show you they don't value it. Sometimes we think our duty is to keep fixing people, especially those closest to us. So we keep giving, keep forgiving, keep hoping they'll change. But ask yourself honestly, has your kindness made them better or more entitled? Has your mercy brought them closer to Allah or made them feel like there are no consequences for their actions? If someone keeps hurting you, disrespecting you, lying to you, and you keep being kind, it sends them the message that their behavior is acceptable. They don't learn respect. They learn manipulation. That's why it's important to distinguish between a person who makes a mistake and sincerely regrets it, and someone who keeps repeating the same hurtful behavior with no remorse. One deserves your kindness. The other deserves your silence, your distance, your firm boundaries. We're not being taught to hate people. We're being taught to protect ourselves from people who don't want to change. And sometimes, the most powerful way to teach someone a lesson is to walk away. Sometimes your absence is louder than your kindness. Even in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, not everyone was treated the same. He understood who was sincere and who wasn't. He gave chances to those who deserved them, and he drew the line when the situation called for it. That's balance. That's wisdom. So don't let people guilt trip you into thinking that being kind means being passive. Kindness without strength is not noble. It's incomplete. If you're always kind to people who are cruel to you, they will believe they're right. If you stay silent when someone is abusive, they will believe they have power. And if you keep forgiving without holding them accountable, they will believe they've done nothing wrong. That's not mercy. That's enabling. And enabling someone's bad behavior is a form of injustice, both to yourself and to them. So no, not everyone deserves your kindness. And that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. That makes you someone who values what Allah has given you. It makes you someone who knows that kindness should elevate, not diminish. Who you are kind to says a lot about who you are. Choose wisely. Your kindness is not for sale. It's not for exploitation. It's not a reward for bad behavior. It's a reflection of your heart, but it must be guarded with wisdom. Keep your heart clean, but don't keep it open to everyone. Let your compassion be a source of strength, not a weakness to be exploited. And when you meet people who do not value kindness, do not force it on them. Step back, make dua for them. Leave them to Allah. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are responsible for protecting what's sacred within you. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. That's something many people don't understand. We think that being a good person means saying yes to everything. We think being kind means tolerating anything. But in reality, a true believer doesn't allow themselves to be walked over. A true believer knows when to say yes and when to say no. And that no can be one of the most powerful forms of kindness. Not just to others, but to yourself. You are allowed to protect your space. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to walk away from people who continuously bring pain, confusion, or fitna into your life. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you're arrogant. It simply means you have realized that not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Just because someone is close to you by blood or proximity doesn't mean they have the right to mistreat you, overstep their bounds, or manipulate your kindness. Sometimes, people hide behind the word family or friend and expect unlimited access to your time, your energy, and even your patience. And when you try to step back, when you try to draw a line, they make you feel guilty. They'll say, "Oh, you've changed," or "You think you're better than us now," or "What happened to the old you?" But the truth is, nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the way they've gotten used to treating you. And now that you're setting boundaries, they don't like it. But that's okay. Let them talk. Let them be uncomfortable. Your duty is not to maintain everyone's comfort at the cost of your own emotional and spiritual well-being. Your duty is to preserve your dignity while staying true to your values. You can still be respectful. You can still have adab. But that doesn't mean you have to tolerate disrespect in the name of kindness. Sometimes people confuse silence for approval. When you keep letting things slide, when you keep smiling through the pain, when you keep answering calls you don't want to answer and showing up when you're mentally exhausted, they think everything is fine. But deep down, your heart is heavy, your mind is scattered, and your soul is tired. That's not sustainable. Eventually, you'll burn out. And when you do, the same people who drained you will ask, why didn't you say anything? So say something now. Set the boundaries before you break. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They are there to protect your energy from people who only take and never give. From people who always expect but never appreciate. From people who apologize but never change. And yes, Islam teaches us to forgive, but forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose not to engage with them anymore. You can wish them well and still protect yourself from their harm. That's not hatred. That's wisdom. Sometimes people will test your limits just to see if you have any. And if you don't, they'll keep pushing. That's how toxic relationships form. When you give too much and expect nothing in return. When you accept disrespect because you're afraid of losing people. But let me tell you something, anyone who leaves you because you started respecting yourself more was never truly for you to begin with. They were only there for the version of you that didn't know your worth. And let's be honest, setting boundaries is not easy. It can be uncomfortable. It can feel selfish at first. But over time, you'll realize that it's one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and for others. Because when you are whole, when you are mentally at peace, when your emotional energy is protected, you're actually able to give more. You're able to be kind without resentment, to help without being drained, to serve others without abandoning yourself. You can still be generous, compassionate, and understanding, but now, from a place of strength, not desperation, you start choosing people who value your time. You start surrounding yourself with those who honor your limits. And you stop feeling guilty for walking away from those who don't. Remember, we are not required to please everyone. That's not what Allah expects from us. What He expects is sincerity, justice, and balance. And part of that balance is knowing when to say, enough is enough. It is knowing when your silence becomes harm, when your patience becomes a burden, and when your kindness becomes self-neglect. So don't be afraid to set boundaries. Don't be afraid to choose peace over pressure, clarity over confusion, and wisdom over blind compassion. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly love you will understand your boundaries. The ones who don't were only there for what they could take from you. Balance mercy with justice. That's the key. Kindness is a beautiful thing. Mercy is a powerful force. But without justice, kindness can be taken for granted and mercy can be abused. Many people make the mistake of thinking that being kind means always letting things go. That being merciful means turning a blind eye to injustice. That's not what Islam teaches us. In fact, the true beauty of Islam is that it brings balance. It teaches us when to be gentle and when to be firm. When someone wrongs you, you have the right to stand up for yourself. You have the right to speak the truth. You have the right to hold people accountable. That is not unkindness. That is justice. And without justice, there is no real kindness. There is no real mercy. Because what are you actually doing? You're allowing harm to continue. You're letting wrong behavior go unchecked. That's not compassion, that's neglect. Sometimes people think being religious means being silent. They think being pious means never confronting problems. So they stay quiet when they are being mistreated. They forgive too quickly, without change. They let people walk over them in the name of sabr. But that's not strength. That's not the patience Allah loves. The patience Allah loves is not weakness. It's endurance with dignity. It's knowing your limits. It's turning to Allah with your pain while still speaking the truth and protecting your rights. You see, mercy is part of faith. But mercy without boundaries leads to chaos. Imagine a teacher who shows so much mercy that he never corrects his students. What happens? The classroom falls into disorder. Imagine a judge who feels sorry for every criminal and lets them all go free. What happens to society? The same thing happens in our lives when we keep showing mercy without wisdom. We start excusing people who don't want to change. We start tolerating things that Allah never told us to tolerate. And then we wonder why we feel so broken. Even when we look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we see something incredible. He was the most merciful. He forgave his enemies. He wept for his ummah. But at the same time, he was not afraid to establish justice. He was not afraid to speak the truth even when it was uncomfortable. He did not allow oppression to continue. He showed us that mercy and justice are not opposites, they are partners. One without the other is incomplete. There are times when the kindest thing you can do is to hold someone accountable. There are times when the most merciful response is a firm boundary. If someone is harming others, lying, cheating, oppressing, and you stay silent in the name of kindness, you are allowing the harm to spread, and you're becoming a part of it. We're not here to support injustice through our silence. We're here to uphold truth with wisdom and fairness. Don't confuse softness with righteousness. Don't think that by always letting things slide, you are being more Islamic. The companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, were strong. They were brave. They stood up for the truth. They defended the oppressed. They weren't harsh, but they weren't naive either. They knew when to forgive and when to confront. That's the balance we need to strive for. Sometimes we fear that if we speak up, we'll lose people. That if we draw lines, people will walk away. Let them. Because if someone leaves your life because you insisted on justice, then their presence was never a mercy to begin with. Real relationships, healthy relationships, are built on respect and fairness. They grow through truth, not through people constantly taking and never giving. And sometimes we need to be reminded that kindness doesn't always mean being liked. It doesn't always feel soft. Sometimes kindness is telling someone a truth they don't want to hear. Sometimes it's walking away from a toxic situation. Sometimes it's protecting others from harm by saying, "This is wrong and it needs to stop." That's not harshness. That's leadership. That's courage. And that's the kind of strength our faith calls us to. So don't let the world shame you for being firm. Don't let people guilt you into tolerating injustice just to appear kind. Your kindness should always reflect the mercy of Allah, but your justice should reflect His wisdom. There's a time for gentle words, and there's a time for silence. There's a time for forgiveness, and there's a time for consequences. That's the balance we must live by. Let your mercy be sincere, but let your justice be clear. Let your heart remain soft, but let your principles stay strong. Because real kindness is not in pleasing everyone. It's in pleasing Allah with fairness, with strength, and with truth.